as these two teams get started here on this Saturday evening. Pittsburgh going from right to left on your television screen. They're wearing blue tops with blue bottoms and gold stripes on their tops. Stanford going from left to right on your television screen. They are wearing white tops with an assorted red and black striping on the front of their jersey and white bottoms. Throw in there for Stanford. Stanford trying to get it over into the Pittsburgh side. Both teams just kind of heading it around right now, and Pittsburgh's going to come away with it. Long, arcing, deep pass down the field that is ultimately going to be kicked away by Schneebly from the goal. Throw in for Bohane. Bohane trying to find a teammate there near the box. It'll roll out of bounds. And so now Cleary will throw it in. Just getting started here at Kagan Stadium. It is a beautiful fall evening here in the South Bay. You can feel a little crisp in the air, but of course, as is custom in this part of California, not at all uncomfortable in the fall. Gradius back to Schneebly. Stanford getting their offense set up.
And Stanford, obviously, the club that has the momentum coming into this. You know, they're on a 4-match win streak. They've had back-to-back shutouts. And actually, it's a program best under head coach Jeremy Gunn with them in terms of 2.42 goals per game they're averaging and 19 shots per game. So just really all about the production this season. And not surprised, I would say, if we see them start pretty quickly here.
Yeah, Stanford, you just talked about their averages in raw numbers, 29 goals. That's third in the ACC, which is really impressive when you consider, I mean, we were talking about it before the game. I mean, you look at the ACC, at any given time, there could be 8 to 10 teams that are possible national championship contenders, and Stanford with one of the best offenses in the best soccer conference there is. Stanford, once again, being very methodical in their approach. Goal kick will go off of a Pittsburgh player, and it'll roll out of bounds. Throw in here from Palmer Bank. Again, Pittsburgh heading it out of the way. So just about 3 minutes gone here in the first half. Both sides still kind of feeling each other out. Stanford has had majority of possession so far, though.
Yeah, really in the last couple of matches as well, both shutouts, of course, as mentioned, but the offense didn't get going until the second half. So I think something they're trying to do here is, again, try to get started a little bit earlier, get something going offensively if you can in that first half. And really getting things going, both of these last matches, has been a bank brother. It was Fletcher against Wake Forest on the road, and then it was Palmer Bank as well here at home against Boston College.
Palmer and Fletcher, the star brother duo out of Bakersfield, California. Both of them very important parts of this Stanford team. Fletcher, the older brother to Palmer. Palmer, a redshirt junior. Fletcher, a senior. This goal kick deep down the field.
Actually, I think they're twins.
They're twins?
But they have just different eligibility in terms of red shirts and things like that.
Well, that's even more impressive.
I'd be curious to know who was actually born first, though. That is a good question.
We'll get someone on that. To Coney Gradius, over to Cleary. Cleary trying to make a defender miss. Goes from the right to the left and then back and forth again. Getting grabbed here on defense. And we're going to get a whistle. It's going to go against Pittsburgh. And so Stanford is going to get a throw in here. Cleary not really liking the options he's seeing right now. And he'll just throw it short. To Coney Gradius. Out towards the center of the field to Groneveld. Groneveld to Gradius. Gradius trying to find someone near the box. Pittsburgh playing pretty good defense so far. And there's a whistle. And this is going to go Pittsburgh's way. There's a little bit of pushing and shoving right there. Fletcher Bank did not seem to enjoy something that Jackson Gilman of Pittsburgh was doing, so he gave him a nice little shove to the chest. So we're not even 6 minutes into this game, and we already have some extracurricular activity.
Stanford definitely known to be a team with a lot of physicality, typically in that, double digit in terms of fouls compared to their opponents from game to game. Just the physical presence has always been emphasized with the Cardinal.
Stanford kicking this one towards the Pittsburgh side. There was no Cardinal there. So Pittsburgh, who we really haven't gotten to see on offense much so far, trying to get something going here. This ball deep towards the Stanford side of the field. And a nice pass to Thorson. And Stanford's defense comes through there. Thorson had a bit of a gap there. He was able to get past the Stanford defense, but then the back line of Stanford able to snuff that opportunity out.
Will keeping it Cleary. Sorry, had to do it.
Oh, shoot.
Had to do it.
That's crazy. The throw in here from Casper Svenby. Svenby, one of the best players in the country last year, but he struggled with injuries this year. I'm sure Pittsburgh's very happy to have him back in the lineup. Brendan Fours. Up to Oliver. Oliver kicked deep down the field, and it's brought in by the Stanford goalkeeper.
And with Svenby, too, it's not just how talented he is as a player, right? I mean, he was an All-American last year, one of 3 in program history for this Pitt program. And he also was a Mac Herman semifinalist. But it's also that presence, like having that type of high-level experience under your belt. That's the intangibles that go along with leadership as well for this team.
And it's just incredible. I mean, you see just all aspects of his game when he's out there. I mean, you just saw him kind of initiating the offense, but he was also the ACC Defensive Player of the Year last year. So he's someone who can play on both sides of the field. He's just a game changer in every aspect. This ball into the box. Chow trying to track it down here for Stanford. He gets to it. Action happening on the far side of the field. And this will be kicked out of bounds off of a Pittsburgh defender. And so, at least I thought it was off a Pittsburgh defender, and it was. So we're going to get our first corner kick of the evening. Joshua Partal is going to do the honors here for the Cardinal.
Number 16, Joshua Partal.
So Stanford lining their players up near the goal. Here comes the chaos that every corner kick provides. This is headed high in the air. Stanford trying to get to it here. And Pittsburgh is going to do their best to clear it. It looks like the Cardinal offense is still going to keep it, though. They're going to back things up, give it back to Schneebly. And this kick bombed down the field towards the mass of humans near the box. And we're going to get a whistle. It'll go Pittsburgh's way.
That's one thing with Stanford as well, is just the ability to create opportunities, to create those chances. I mean, when you look at the last few matches, for example, they had 8 corners to Wake Forest's 2, 8-0 versus Boston College, and then 7 corners against Oregon State that went down to the wire versus just a pair for the Beavers. So something that they've also been outpacing their opponents with.
Coming up on 9 minutes gone here in the first half. This ball kicked down the far sideline. Bank trying to track it down. He'll get to it. Trying to make a defender miss here. Getting tied up with Wetzel. And Wetzel ultimately able to get a foot on it, but Stanford will retain possession. This kick towards the goal and knocked up in the air by Moxham. A little sneak attack there from Stanford. And Taconi Gradius put a defender on his butt. And Pittsburgh gets it back, and now Stanford has it back. Bohane towards the goal, looking for a cutting teammate. And Pittsburgh finally able to clear it away. But Stanford will get it back. So right now, it just seems like Stanford is quicker to the ball in every single opportunity.
And Tinconi Gradius specifically, he was a striker previously earlier on in his career. He actually moved to the back line. He's started every game coming into this at center back. Still has a couple of braces, so still aggressive and able to score and do things on both sides of the ball. But his presence has been key for the Cardinal.
Tinconi Gradius, who has two-goal games this year, picked up a 2-goal game on September 9th against St. Mary's, and then one on September 17th against San Jose State. So it's safe to say Bay Area rivals do not like Tinconi Gradius. Getting clear here with an open chance at the box, but then backing it up is Villa Majana. Now Pittsburgh getting into their offensive attack. This is really the first time we've seen them with a prolonged possession. Renan Fours to Better Ray, now to Villa Majana. Villa Majana trying to find a teammate behind him, but Stanford's defense doing a nice job of snuffing that out. Gilman is going to back things up and slow things down. Better Ray, he's running into trouble now. Again, Stanford playing very physical. Better Ray will go to the ground, and that'll be a foul on Jack Pym. Over 11 minutes gone now in the first half. Still 0-0. Pittsburgh, who we haven't seen much on offense so far today, but they have possession right now, and they're trying to see if they can make something happen. Better Ray trying to figure out what he wants to do. Gives it to Gilman. Gilman is going to kick it down the field to Renan Fours. Renan Fours with two Stanford defenders on him. And nice pass to Dahl. Dahl trying to find a cutting teammate. And Stanford once again snuffs it out. And this will be cleared down the field. So Pittsburgh, they've had some open opportunities so far. They haven't gotten a shot on goal yet, but I would imagine that if you're Jeremy Gunn, there's probably a few adjustments you'd like to make, because we've seen a few Pittsburgh Panthers loose and free near the goal.
Yeah, and if you look at the video board here, right, at Kagan Stadium, you look at the numbers, no shots, no saves, just the one corner that Stanford had, but both teams putting pressure at different moments on each other. So despite there not being a ton of numbers up there, there's still been a lot of action so far this early on in the match.
Pittsburgh on the far sideline, just passing it around. Better Ray kicks it towards the far sideline, and then Pittsburgh is going to give it back to Stanford here. Some contact in the middle of the field, and down on the ground, grabbing his leg is Bohey, and that's not what you want to see if you're a Cardinal fan. There was a whistle, and some arguments coming here from Pittsburgh. Hopefully Bohane's okay.
Immediate reaction, too, in the crowd. You could hear Stanford fans in particular, and yes, the conversations right now between Pitt players and the referee.
I didn't see any sort of a yellow card, so right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a foul. But obviously Pittsburgh did not agree with the whistle in any way. So it'll be a free kick for Stanford. Joshua Partal is going to take this free kick just north of midfield. Stanford ready to go. High kick towards the goal, headed away by Pitt. And getting to it is Bohane. Bohane trying to make a defender miss on the right side of the field. Gives it off to Cleary. Cleary now with two defenders on him. Back to Bohane. Bohane, nice defense there from Dahl. There's a whistle, and this one looks like it's going Pittsburgh's way. So already very physical here in the first moments of this game. You can tell that there's not a lot of love lost right now between these two teams.
There's a lot on the line, right? With any ACC matchup like this. 6 fouls now for Stanford. Pitt has the 1 so far.
And it's interesting because you'd expect, I mean, right now, Pittsburgh, based on records, they're the more desperate team, right? I mean, Pittsburgh, they need to start winning if they want to get back into the NCAA tournament. This is a very proud program that has had lots of success. So you'd think that if there was going to be a team that was going to be aggressively physical, it'd be Pittsburgh, but that's not been the way it has been so far. Stanford, instead, has looked like the team that is desperate for a win, despite the fact they're the #1 team in the nation.
Yeah, and that draw that they had with then #1 NC State just a couple of matches ago, that was their first point in ACC play. Again, they're still looking for their first win. They're 0-3-1 so far on the season. It was their second tie of the season overall. But one of the players that's going to get things going is Villamajana, leading the team in 5 goals. They've actually all been headers, too, which is very interesting. So obviously one to watch as he's leading with 3 assists, 13 points, 23 shots coming into this as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a key factor in getting things going for Pitt.
Villamajana, the header king, if you will. He hails from Spain. He had 2 goals in the NCAA tournament last year, so he comes through in big games for the Panthers. And I'm sure the Panthers are going to need him to have a pretty spectacular performance if they want to take down the #1 team in the country tonight. 30 minutes left in the first half.
Maybe we'll call him the head of Pitt men's soccer for now.
But not like the head as in he's in charge. Like his head is the head of Pitt men's soccer.
However, you know what? All the interpretations, right?
Villamajana gets that ball taken away. It goes out of bounds. Svenby is going to throw it in here. We already talked a little bit about Svenby and how important he is to Pittsburgh. Some other things that make him special. Again, last year, he was the first team All-American, and first team All-ACC. And he was a transfer before last year from Dayton. So he came over across states, went to the state of Pennsylvania, and really took a step forward. He was a good player at Dayton, but even better now with Pittsburgh. This is a high arcing kick down the field. And that's kicked away right before Dahl can get to it. Nice defense there from Taconi Gradius. It goes out of bounds, and Pittsburgh will get possession. Red and fours, right at midfield. He's going to throw it in to Better Ray. Red and fours get it to back. It'll go out of bounds, this time off of Red and fours, and now Stanford will get the ball. Cleary fakes the throw in. Pittsburgh doing a nice job of covering these throw-ins. You can tell that Stanford hasn't been very comfortable on them. Cleary trying to make a man miss there in the middle of the field. Taconi Gradius up to Bohane. Bohane kicks it down the field. A fast pass there from Islam. Stanford will get it back. Fletcher Bank on the far side of the box. Stanford passing it around. Pym towards the goal and just missed Bohane, who is cutting towards the net. If that pass was a little bit more online, that could have been dangerous, but as is, still a very good offensive possession there for Stanford as they force the action.
And you gotta love the aggressiveness from a freshman like Pym as well, and just a lot of impact already immediately in the first campaign for a few different freshmen. Pym, Allen, Stone, they've actually, all 3 of them scored a goal in the same season. That's the first time since 2022 that that's happened in the program. Allen, Partal, and Pym all started in the same game. That was the first time since 2022 as well. Just immediate impact from the younger ones on the team in addition to the upperclassmen leaders.
So Pittsburgh passing the ball around here around midfield. That was a very aggressive defense from Pym as he knocked down one of the Pittsburgh players. Oliver towards midfield to Svenby. Svenby sends it down towards the far sideline. Pittsburgh, again, they've had some pretty good passes so far. You can tell passing a very big part of their offensive attack. They're all very crisp. Still over on the far sideline. And Svenby trying to track it down, and he gets pushed there by Bank. And right now, Stanford playing a version of bully ball here on this pitch. I just feel like every single time that a Pittsburgh player has the opportunity to get the ball, some Stanford player is pushing him in the back.
And there's something about playing here at home, too. I mean, now 100 wins under the belt of Jeremy Gunn here at Kagan Stadium specifically. That just recently happened. Last time they were here against Boston College. It's a fortress almost to play here. It's not easy. You have the environment, of course, and that home field advantage, but there's a little bit of pride that goes along with it as well.
Absolutely. When you're going to call yourself the capital of college soccer, there has to be some sort of a home field advantage that comes with that. It'd be kind of lame if you called yourself the capital of college soccer, but you were like 500 at home or something like that, as this goes out of bounds.
I think overall 323 wins to 128 losses, 74 ties at home. That is since 1973 for Stanford men's soccer. Again, 100 of those wins to just 23 losses and 28 ties under Jeremy Gunn.
Stanford with an opportunity here as this ball is sent up in the air off a deflection. Cleary with the opportunity there. I mean, that's the kind of home field advantage you have to build if you're going to be an elite program. You know, they say in so many sports that if you want to be really, really good, you have to win your games at home. And then after that, you take care of the road as best you can. But if you can win the games at home, if you can take care of the games where you have that home field advantage, it's just going to put you in such a good position going on in the rest of your season.
And going on the road, that in itself has evolved just across college sports in general.
Absolutely.
With the realignment of conferences, the ACC truly being the all-coast conference now at this point, coming out here on the West Coast. So this is actually the first meeting ever between these two programs with Stanford and Pitt on the men's soccer side of things. And it's the last ACC opponent that Stanford had yet to face now here in their sophomore season in the ACC.
Absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that really impresses me about Stanford is, you know, I can't speak for every school, but I know at Stanford, I mean, all of these players, they also have to be exceptional students as well. So they have to keep up on their schoolwork. They have to keep up on all of their different responsibilities outside of soccer while also traveling over to the East Coast multiple times a year. I mean, there's probably certain weeks where they only go to class like once or twice, and then they gotta get over to, whether it's Raleigh, North Carolina, or get over to Miami, Florida to go play games.
And you have to take that into consideration when you make the schedule, right? You know, for Stanford in particular, all the preseason and all the non-conference matchups that they have are in the state of California.
Yeah.
That's to make that more manageable because that conference slate is all over the place.
Absolutely. I mean, and you're correct, Jenna. I mean, the landscape of college athletics, I mean, I think a lot of times football gets most of the attention, but when you think about the landscape of college athletics as a whole in all the sports, it has completely changed, and there are a lot of different challenges that come with that.
There are, and honestly, being a student athlete in itself is a challenge.
Yeah.
There's just so much on your plate. You mentioned it academically as well as athletically. Now with NIL and the transfer portal, there's just so many elements that these college-level students are having to deal with and manage really on a day-to-day basis. It's a lot more than we had to back in the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, college athletics has definitely changed, but what has not changed is that Stanford's men's soccer program is one of the best in the nation. They continue to uphold excellence here on the pitch, and we're going to get a throw in here from Joshua Partal. We're almost halfway through the first half of play here, again on a beautiful evening at Kagan Stadium. Partal, the second corner kick here for Stanford in the game. Here it comes towards the bodies in front of the net, headed away. Pittsburgh trying to clear it here and kicking it out of bounds and into the stands is Logan Oliver. So Stanford will get a throw in. Will Cleary will do the honors. We are now over halfway done here in the first half. Cleary throws it in here to Chow. Chow gets it back off a nice pass there from Pim. Now he's looking for a teammate in the box, and ooh, missed opportunity there. And then another save from Moxham. That was an opportunity there for Bohane. Thought he had an opening. And then Chow, off the rebound, was able to get it and then kick it towards the net as well. Two good saves by Jack Moxham. But Stanford, with the first two shots of the game, and the first two shots on goal of the game as well, we are still tied 0-0.
A lot of credit to Jack Moxham on that play. You know, coming from last year, getting to play in 5 different matches, about 450 minutes, had a great performance during the time that he did get on the pitch. You know, 13 saves, 0.4 goals against average, only 2 goals that he allowed, etc. And now he's been the mainstay between the posts for this Pitt team this year.
And, Moxham, along with the rest of the Pittsburgh defense, it's been a challenging year. This is a Pittsburgh team that ranks tied for 13th in goals allowed in the ACC at 17. So defense has definitely been a challenge. And, look, when you're missing your defensive staple, Casper Svenby, excuse me, who was the ACC Defender of the Year last year, obviously you're going to see some challenges come on that defensive end. But Pittsburgh, that's definitely going to be something they're going to want to improve if they're going to try to get back to the NCAA tournament. And so far early in this game, the Pittsburgh defense and Moxham's play in goal has been stellar. On the far sideline here, kick towards the box. Bohane runs it down. Cleary has it, back to Bohane. High up in the air towards the left side of the goal, headed up by Bank and then brought in by Moxham once again. Moxham wearing a black jersey with gray sleeves to differentiate himself from his teammates who are wearing blue, and then Schneebly on the other side wearing bright green mixed with dark green to differentiate himself from the white Stanford jerseys. Always very fun for me to see what the goalkeepers wear. I think they can get very creative with it sometimes.
They do. It's fun, right? And
yeah.
It's one of those, I always like to look, no matter the sport, honestly, at the kits they wear, the uniforms they wear, what their choices are. It's fun to see the student athletes get to express themselves, too, a little bit.
Absolutely. Any chance there's an opportunity to see more of the personalities of these student athletes, that's what we really want to see as fans, right? We want to see these student athletes not just perform on the pitch, but also get to see who they are as people. And even something as small as getting to choose what color kit you get to wear is a way for them to express some of their personality. Pym down the field. That was a free kick there for Stanford. And falling to the ground, there is a Pittsburgh player. And so that'll be a foul on Fletcher Bank. So Pittsburgh will come back the other way. Under 20 minutes left to go in the first half. We're still tied 0-0. Stanford with the only 2 shots so far in this half. Coming down the field with a head of steam is Redenfors. Nice pass to Dahl, but then the Pittsburgh offensive possession stalls out there. And now this is an open opportunity for Bank, but it's going to get to the goalkeeper Moxham first. It gives it back to his back line. Redenfors. Down to Dahl. Dahl with one defender in front of him. Goes to the right, kicks it towards the box, and then a dangerous deflection there, and it's brought in by the goalkeeper. Evening beginning to descend upon the South Bay. We're going to be treated to a wonderful sunset here. You can see the orange and pink hues above the visiting stands right now, as this will go out of bounds. Exactly what you would expect from a evening game here in Stanford. And, to the point of the changing of college athletics, I think that a lot of these ACT teams, they look forward to their trip to California every single year. It's probably a treat, especially for these Pittsburgh players who haven't been here before.
It is, and it's fun to see the programs across the various sports get to do things like go to the Golden Gate Bridge, because most of the time if they're coming out here to play Stanford, that means they're also swinging by Berkeley to play against Cal as well. And so just getting to have that experience, the full experience of college athletics in that way is pretty cool just from a cultural standpoint.
Absolutely. And as you'd expect, most of these Pittsburgh players, the ones who aren't international, because there is a major international presence on this Pittsburgh team, are from the East Coast or the Midwest. So a lot of them haven't spent a lot of time out here in California. This ball on the far sideline, Bank with it. Bank over on the left side of the box, kicks it towards some of his teammates in front of the goal. It gets headed out of the way, Gradius over to Bohane, and then Bohane gets that ball taken away. Again, Pittsburgh bending but not breaking on defense so far. This is tracked down by Groneveld. Groneveld short of the midfield line, high arcing kick. This is headed away. Pittsburgh gets it back. Dahl And he has it taken away by Bohane. Cleary over to Bohane, and that'll roll out of bounds. Coming up on 15 minutes left to go. We're at 16 minutes right now here in the first half.
Another one we haven't mentioned as much, just in terms of the defense in the back line for Pitt specifically. Niklas Sorensen has been a loss this year as well. He was one of the folks returning from last year's successful squad. He was on the freshman team in the ACC. He's had some injuries and hasn't been able to play quite as much either. So that presence on top of Svenby, for example, they haven't had the combination that they're used to last year and that they were depending on.
Pittsburgh backed up right now. They've been backed up quite a bit so far in this game. Stanford gets it back. Bank trying to track it down. Kicked away by a defender. Cleary on the right side of the box. Trying to make a man miss. It goes to Pym. Pym. Little touch pass opportunity there from Partal. That's taken away by Pitt. And Stanford will get it back. Once again, Stanford just continues to get all these 50-50 opportunities. And this ball is kicked high into the air and over the stands on the visiting side, so some poor intern is going to have to go and track that one down.
There's even more wide open space here around Kagan Stadium too, now that some of the eucalyptus trees and things have been cleared out. So you can see a little bit further around the massive campus, second largest campus in the world actually, here at Stanford by land.
Really?
Yes.
I know that Michigan has the largest campus. No, it's Central Florida that has the largest campus by people.
Yeah, no, this is by land.
By land. What's the largest campus by land?
I believe it's somewhere in Russia, actually.
In Russia?
Yes. But
wow.
That's because there's plenty of parts of campus that's technically part of the university here at Stanford that might not be. There might not be buildings on it. It might not be populated necessarily, but it's very large. And that's why all 4 years, student athletes, as well as just students in general, will live on campus because there's enough room. There's only 7,500 or so undergraduates and 17,000 plus maybe, including grad school.
Shot there by Bank, brought in by Moxham. So Stanford once again with an opportunity to score a goal there. They now have 3 shots in the first half. Yeah, my cousin goes to Stanford. He's actually on the men's volleyball team. Shout out Luke Morrison. And he lives on campus, but he was explaining to me that although he's on campus, he's in the far reaches of campus. So he is sometimes miles away from some of his classes.
That sounds about right. And that's why bikes are also extremely popular. You don't typically meet someone who doesn't have a bike or a scooter or something. And now they have, motorized ones or electric bikes, which is much more helpful, especially for the athletes who are exhausted, biking to class after weights, etc.
Cleary with the ball going into the box here. Out to Bohane. Bohane sees that ball get kicked away, and it'll roll out of bounds. I mean, I'm sure there's some legendary stories from parents who went to Stanford who played athletics about having to bike uphill both ways, even though it's a mostly flat campus, and having to go to practice and then do all their classes, and how the kids these days just have it so easy and stuff like that.
Yeah, apparently they probably walked barefoot in the snow despite it being California, right?
My dad, to this day, swears that when he was in high school and he went out for wrestling, that his bike ride was uphill both ways. I don't understand how that's possible, but he still to this day swears that it was uphill both ways.
Just let him have it. He can have it.
So Niklas Sorensen is going to come in here. You were just talking about him, Jenna. So Sorensen making his appearance. This is his 8th game of the season. His first game not as a starter. He started the 7 games before this that he appeared in. Member of the 2024 ACC All-Freshman team. So part of the young core of this Pittsburgh squad that I'm sure Jay Vidovich hopes will continue to keep this team in the national conversation for years to come.
Yeah, one of the 4 key starters who, again, has been injured for part of the season and hasn't been able to contribute the way that this program is used to. But Svenby, Dahl, Sorensen, and Baderay, all 4 of them are on that list, but all 4 of them have already made an appearance here tonight, so that's a good sign for Pitt.
Yeah, if you're Pittsburgh, I mean, obviously, you're in a situation you didn't really want to be in, where you're having to battle just to get into the NCAA tournament. But if there was ever a moment where you'd like your key players to come back, it's now as you start getting towards the stretch run and you have to make a statement to try and get into that tournament.
That's right. The standards are high. Like you said, they've had success. It's a very storied program. Of course, Jay Vidovich himself is a very storied coach. But they, 6 straight appearances in the NCAA tournament, and they lead the nation with 4 quarterfinal appearances in the last 5 seasons. So it's not, typically for them, it's not just getting to the tournament, it's how deep can you go. But this year, it's been a little bit tougher, and they're battling some adversity.
And obviously, with them being in the ACC, if they can come through here at the end of the season, they can win some games, if they can make a statement in the ACC tournament, they're going to have a good chance of getting in just because of the quality of schedule that they're playing. But in order to do that, they're going to have to perform. And it starts tonight against the #1 team in the nation in Stanford. And right now, they're holding their own. Still tied 0-0 about 35 minutes into the game.
In for the Cardinal.
It's been a tough stretch for them in general, too. I mean, the #1 at the time team with NC State to #9 Duke to now #1 Stanford. I mean, back to back to back. That's the ACC in a nutshell, really.
So Stanford with a mass substitution here as they bring in Shane DeFlores, Liam Doyle, Tomo Allen, and then Jude Stone. So Stanford subbing in 4 fresh pairs of legs with 10 minutes left in the first half. When you have the depth Stanford has, that's just such a weapon when you can bring in fresh bodies who have just as much quality as the starters that you had before. And it's got to be a challenge for an opponent when you may not have as much depth and you might be a little bit more tired and you have to face these fresh yet solid players going up at you. Cleary, again, Pittsburgh defending the throw-in well. Pym, back to Cleary, back to Pym. He's in the far corner right now. Pym trying to make a man miss. And he kicks it across the field towards the net. Header opportunity there for Allen, but it goes off of the left side of Allen's head, and it goes far left of the goal, so we remain scoreless 0-0. Goal kick coming from Moxham. Moxham taking his time. Obviously doesn't feel comfortable with what he's seeing. Line drive kick down the far side of the field. This is headed up in the air. Stanford looks like they're going to get it back. Allen fighting for the ball as this ball goes towards the corner. And Allen with a couple of nice moves, but then goes off the side of his foot. So almost goes back to Pittsburgh. But once again, Stanford fighting for every 50-50 opportunity. This ball super high in the air, about 5 stories up. Headed again. Both teams fighting for it. Goes over to Bank. Bank on the far sideline. And Bank kicks it off the chest of a Pittsburgh defender. Pittsburgh trying so hard to clear this thing. And they finally will. So Schneebly kicks it down the field. Once again, most of this game has been played on the right side of your television screen, with the Stanford offensive attack looking very good. We have less than 8 minutes to go in the first half, and this ball will go out of bounds. Hooper throws it in. Excuse me, that was Bank. Cleary on the near sideline. Up the field to DeFlores. DeFlores back to Cleary. Cleary to DeFlores. And nice defense there from Gilman. Here comes another throw in. This is popped up high in the air and out of bounds. So Pittsburgh will get another goal kick here. Coming up on the waning moments of the first half. Still 0-0. Be interesting to see what halftime adjustments each team makes. I'm sure if you're Pittsburgh, you're going to try to create some more offensive opportunities because, like I was saying, most of this game's been played over on the Pittsburgh side of the field with Stanford dominating offensively despite the fact they have no goals. And then if you're Stanford, I mean, really, it's just how do we break through the glass? How do we break through the glass? How do we score the first goal of the game? Because you have to think, a team like Pittsburgh that I mean, obviously, they're trying to make an upset right now. The longer they stay in the game, the longer this stays scoreless, the more hope they're going to have and the more momentum they're going to have that they can possibly steal one here at Kagan Stadium.
And for the Cardinal, they're looking for their 8th straight win, which would be the best start in program history here at Kagan as well. And that's that added pride that goes along with playing at home, right? In addition to, you know, recently, for example, in that Wake Forest match, what Jeremy Gunn said he liked that he saw is being sharp from start to finish, dominating the shot count. He feels like they were able to suffocate with their attack. They've been doing some of that here in this one as well, but he also appreciated how the back four were rock solid. The counterattack was nice. Like, it was just overall a fantastic performance, he felt, on both sides of the ball. So they're trying to take that momentum in, despite it being a week ago, right? There's been a week in between games. The scheduling is a little bit interesting in that way. That was on the road. Now here they are back at home.
I have to say I was very happy that there was a week between games when I was preparing for this game on Tuesday. But to your point, talking about Jeremy Gunn's points there about the defense, I mean, the offense has been incredible so far this year. Not that the defense has been bad, but if there is one weakness about the Stanford team, they're 8th in the ACC in goals allowed. They've allowed 12 goals so far this season. So, again, not bad on defense by any means, but they haven't exactly been locked down either. So, when you hear Gunn complimenting that back line, obviously, Gunn feels like if the defense can hold up and the defense does their job, Stanford becomes an almost impossible team to beat as this ball goes out of bounds.
And I think he mentioned, for example, too, in that Boston College win, it's the accumulation of pressure as well that can make the difference for you. So, yeah, they didn't score in the first half against Boston College. They didn't score in the first half against Wake Forest. It came early on in the second half because of the pressure that they had been putting on all game long. So I wouldn't be surprised unless we see some magic here right before halftime, right, which is possible if we see something similar.
Absolutely, and Kagan Stadium is a magical place, so why would you doubt that some magic could happen? But I mean, you just think about it logically, right? If you're constantly on defense having to react to every single move that the offense is making and you're having to hustle around, run all over the place, it is just so much more, not just physically, but mentally exhausting than being on offense and being able to play your game and dictate the rhythm to your opponent. And so we'll see if Pittsburgh can maintain this level of defensive intensity going into the second half of play. Because right now, it just feels like you were talking about, Jen, it just feels like the pressure is just continuing to be applied on that Pittsburgh defense. And you wonder at what point does Stanford break through?
Stanford truly is relentless, right? Like, they really are on the offensive side with their attack, just the speed of the game in which they play. And that's why it's so important to be in shape, because you're able to be relentless like that. You can just not take your foot off the gas if you've put in that work beforehand, which I know they pride themselves on in this program.
Jenna, I ran cross country and track in high school and college, and I'm currently a cross country coach now at the high school level. And I can honestly tell you the only other sport where I truly respect their conditioning is soccer.
Yeah.
Any other sport, people say, oh, I'm in good shape. Oh, okay, that's cute. But
Yeah.
soccer,
Yeah.
no, these guys are in incredible shape. And that's why, as a distance coach, I'm always recruiting soccer players to try to join the track team.
Fair enough. And you'll see some of that crossover at the high school level, for example, with track and field and then with soccer for those reasons. There's different types of shape, too, right? There's game shape. There's just straight up being in shape, being able to run around all day
Yeah.
long.
This ball kicked up high in the air. Cleary with it. Cleary off of a Pittsburgh defender. And DeFlores now on the right side of the box. Gives it to Coney Gradius. Groneveld, just north of midfield, and back to Coney Gradius. I didn't mean to sound like too much of a pretentious distance runner there. Obviously, if I got into a weightlifting competition with anybody outside of the cross-country team, I would lose. So I agree with you. There is different types of shape and fitness.
Well, I mean, you're talking to a former softball player, so in our case, you know, we talk about being in ground ball shape for the infielders, for example. There's a specific type of shape. It's not going to be to the level that you have to have in soccer or even basketball and field hockey, some of these other sports. It's just really impressive.
Well, I will not be challenging you to an arm wrestling contest because you would win.
Fair enough. I'll take it.
Coming up on 1 minute to go here. We're actually at 1:29. Clock has stopped. is. It looks like the referee is having a conversation right now with Villa Majana and a couple of other players. I didn't see a card go up, but there was a foul. And now he's got his hands on the shoulders of players from both teams. So this looks like some sort of a coming to understanding about what should be happening on the pitch.
He's been really communicative, actually, with players on both sides throughout this game. You've seen the conversations happening after maybe a foul is called. Hearing them out, telling them what's going on.
And that's really all you can ask for if you're a player, right? I mean, just a referee to be fair and communicative. I'm sure the players on both sides respect that. So Stanford trying to make something special happen here in the last minute and change. Over on the left side of the box. And a nice opportunity there from Chow. Good save from Moxham, and something special almost did happen.
1 minute remaining in the half.
There's the 1 minute announcement from the PA. So Stanford with less than a minute now to see if they can score the first goal of the game here in the first half.
That was an absolute strike.
Good thing Moxham's wearing gloves.
Yeah, Moxham had some moxie on that. Let's just put it that way, because that had a lot of oomph behind it.
You're very quick on your feet with the alliterations and the different word puzzles that you come up with. I respect it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Ball towards the goal, again kicked away by Pittsburgh. Right now, Pittsburgh just trying to hold on for dear life and get to the end of the first half. This is going to be kicked away. So 15 seconds left on the clock. Stanford's going to try to come up with something in the nick of time. Cleary throws it into Pym. Pym across the field. That goes out of bounds. And that might be the last play here of the first half. It will indeed be the last play of the first half. So we are through 45 minutes of play. We are tied 0-0. And Jenna, it's been a defensive battle so far. We talked a little bit about the pressure that Stanford's been able to apply, though. You look at the numbers.
A couple of games, for example, but that defense stepping up is huge, and a lot of that is just mental strength. He talked about that in the Oregon State game. Stanford came back to win 3-2 at the end of that. He said the mentality made the difference. We don't claim to be perfect, but we claim to be very tough, and that's what they're able to do from game to game.
Absolutely. We're getting ready here for the second half of soccer. I'll be back on play-by-play here for the second half. That's because production called and said they don't want to hear me on color. They want to hear Jenna keep on going on color because she's so good at it. So you're going to have to hear me yap for another 45 minutes here. Stanford and Pittsburgh on the field right now. We have Stanford huddling up. So as is customary in the game of soccer, these teams are going to switch sides. Stanford's going to go from the right to the left now in their white jerseys. Pittsburgh's going to go from the left to the right in their blue jerseys. Fans getting hyped up. They're returning to their seats after getting some chicken strips from the snack shack. And we are set for an exciting second half of soccer here at Kagan Stadium. So Shane DeFlores is going to get us started. Pittsburgh had the first possession to start the game. So Stanford will get possession here to start the second half. And here's the kick from DeFlores, and we are underway. Stanford pushing the ball down towards the Pittsburgh side, and there's a foul. During the half, the sun went down, so we now have almost black skies above us. The lights have taken full effect here at Kagan Stadium. Nothing better than Stanford soccer under the lights here on a beautiful fall evening. Stanford trying to track this one down. This is Groneveld. But actually, it's going to be Schneebly who just kicks it to Groneveld very softly. And so Stanford once again on the attack.
Got to witness a Saturday sunset in the capital of college soccer.
We're selling that on this broadcast.
It's true. When you have had both your men's and women's side earlier this season ranked number one at the same time, both teams, generally speaking, have even reached number one in the same season is a big deal, let alone at the same time, and still top three on the women's side. You know, it is just an absolute fortress, again, here at Kagan. Really, it truly is.
That ball headed away. Stanford trying to argue they should get a corner kick, and they will, as that ball went off of a Pittsburgh defender. And so it looks like Joshua Partal is going to take the corner kick here.
Stanford corner kick, number 16, Joshua.
Partal getting ready to go. This is the third corner kick of the game for Stanford. Here's the kick from Partal. Line drive kick towards the slew of bodies in front of the goal. That's kicked away by the Pittsburgh defense. So Schneebly, who comes up well outside of his own goal, kicks it towards the net and kicks it to his counterpart, Moxham, who fields it on a hop.
Well, we've talked about the relentless attack from Stanford, but credit to Moxham for having 3 saves in that first half already as well. He's been absolutely key, of course, for this Pitt team.
And Moxham, as Pittsburgh now, with the ball deep on the Stanford side. So the Stanford defense kind of falling asleep there a little bit, but they'll recover. Moxham, we talked a little bit about him in the first half, but only 5 games played last season. This year, I mean, 17 goals allowed and 11 games played coming into today. Not incredible numbers, the 1.55 goals against average, but he's playing a good game so far today. And look, you can't blame goals allowed completely on the goalkeeper. Obviously, the defense claims some responsibility there. As here comes a throw-in. It looks like Palmer Bank is going to take the throw-in. Once again, deep on the Pittsburgh side of the field. So again, Stanford applying that pressure that we've talked about. Bank, who we learned during halftime, knows the entire passage at the beginning of Macbeth.
Yes.
Gets ready to throw it in. Here it is. High arcing throw towards the bodies, and that ball just landed on the ground and then was inadvertently kicked away. So that throw from Bank found no one. It goes out of bounds, and here comes a goal kick.
That was a break for Pitt right there. You'll take that all day long with this Stanford offense.
Absolutely. And there's just so much chaos on plays like that in front of the goal. I think a lot of times it's just whoever can get better position on those scrums, on corner kicks and throw-ins, that's who usually has the advantage. And Pittsburgh, fortunately there for them, was able to hold position pretty well. Thorson. Back out to Svenby. Back to Thorson. Out towards the midfield. Again, Pitt just trying to make something happen on offense here. If anything, just get some pressure off their defense. Nice move from Thorson. Thorson on the right side of the box. Kicks it towards the goal. Off the hands of Schneebly. And then kicked away by Stanford. So Pittsburgh with their first shot on goal of the day. And Stanford able to clear it out. But that was a close call there for the Stanford defense. Now Stanford on the attack very quickly. Trying to catch Pittsburgh's defense, getting back slowly. Islam, the pass to Bank, and now DeFlores over to Bohane. Bohane over to Bank. Stanford passing it around. This is Pym. Pym goes back to Groneveld, and now Stanford's going to back away a little bit. Didn't like what they saw there on the initial attack. Over towards the far sideline. Stanford getting deeper into the box. Islam towards some offensive players, and there's a goal for Palmer Bank. Palmer Bank off of a fantastic pass from Trevor Islam. And Bank picks up his 2nd goal of the season. And finally, Stanford breaks through after about 50 minutes of pressure to make this a 1-0 game.
That's exactly what we talked about, the accumulation of pressure from that first half, dominating the shot count, just being absolutely relentless on the attack. It finally connects here early on in the second half. And that's the 2nd goal for him on the year and the 2nd in the last 3 games. He's starting to warm up offensively.
Absolutely. He had a goal against Boston College on September 28th. So Palmer Bank in the right place at the right time. And shout out to Trevor Islam, who had a fantastic pass, put it in the exact right spot for Palmer Bank. That's going to be the 3rd assist of the season for Trevor Islam, the sophomore out of Tamalpais High School. And so this Stanford team finally scoring, and it was actually kind of the way we thought it would happen based off of recent trends for the Stanford team. A first half where they just applied as much pressure as they could, and they break through in the second. So now the challenge for Pittsburgh, who has been offensive challenged all day, is to try to create some momentum. Instead, they give it right back to Stanford, and a kick there from Islam that gets denied by Moxham, but it's going to lead to a corner kick for the Cardinals. So Pittsburgh seeming almost shell-shocked after giving up that goal to Palmer Bank, kind of falls asleep on offense. They give the ball right back to the Cardinal, and now the Cardinal with another golden opportunity here to score their second goal of the evening.
Trevor Islam's a name we actually haven't said enough. He was a walk-on last season, joined the team in the spring of 2024, was tied for the team lead in goals this season here in 2025. Really just a perfect example of how hard work pays off. But he assisted Fletcher Bank just one game ago in that Wake Forest win on the road too, and now it's Palmer this time.
The twin telepathy working well against Wake Forest for
there you go.
The Bank brothers. So Pittsburgh, they dodged a bullet there on that last sequence. And once again, as I was saying, this Pittsburgh team finds himself down 1-0, and they haven't been able to create any offense. So now if you're Stanford, I mean, I'm sure that you feel quite emboldened by that first goal of the game. And I'm sure that this pressure is just going to get harder and harder from the Stanford defensive point of view.
And that's something that Jeremy Gunn talked about as well. Not only continuing to put the pressure on, but being able to keep going even if the opponent looks like they're slowing down a little bit or they might be finished late in the game. Stanford just keeps their foot on the gas in those situations. And in the transition, as we just saw.
This is an opportunity here for De Flores. Leads to a chance for Bohane. Bohane has that one blocked. Stanford gets it right back. And a kick just rolling harmlessly on the right side of the box is taken in by Moxham. So the Cardinal not letting up whatsoever after scoring that first goal. They smell blood in the water and they want to execute and try to put this thing away early. This ball is going to be kicked out of bounds over on the far sideline.
It's so interesting to see how the complexion of a conference develops and evolves over a season as well. You know, coming in to this year, the preseason poll in the ACC, Pitt was picked to take 3rd out of 15. Stanford was picked. They were tied for 5th along with SMU behind Clemson, Wake Forest, Pitt, and Duke. And then you flip it to now, coming into this game, if you look at the points in particular, after that win at Wake Forest, Stanford is first in the ACC in terms of points, and right now Pitt at the bottom of the ACC in terms of points. So just the way that things can change so quickly is so interesting in soccer.
Absolutely, and we talked about the quality of the ACC. If you're a team that has any sort of weakness or you're a team that is struggling whatsoever, this conference is completely unforgiving. I mean, if you're, like we talked about the injuries that Pittsburgh has had, and they've had a lot of injuries, no one's going to feel sorry for them. They're just going to get eaten up by all these great teams in the ACC, which is why it's so important that Pittsburgh is able to find a rhythm now that some of their big players are healthy.
That's right. Stanford finished 7th in the ACC last year, and they were the number 16 overall seed. Just for context on the strength of this conference.
Bank to bank, and that's headed out by Pittsburgh. Stanford still with possession. This is Partal. Partal across the field to Cleary. I'm sure the ACC tournament, which is only a couple weeks away, will be very, very exciting. All these teams getting to face off against each other in a tournament-style competition. Stanford gets it back here.
It's always an interesting opportunity as well because you're playing against familiar foes in the sense that, of course, you know these competitors in your conference already. You're familiar with them. They're familiar with you. But there's that postseason feeling with the tournament style that comes into play. You never know what could happen. Somebody could steal that championship and then find their way into the NCAA tournament with the automatic bid. It gets you prepared for that NCAA tournament as well.
Down the field with an opportunity here is Islam, and Islam misses the goal far to the right. Stanford's claiming that was tipped by the Pittsburgh goalkeeper, but the referee didn't see that, so we're going to get a goal kick here from Moxham. So Islam racing down the field with an opportunity there. Score the second goal of the game for Stanford, and the Cardinal continuing to be relentless on the attack. So Moxham trying to find a lane here for this goal kick. And Pittsburgh just trying all they can to try to get some sort of a coherent possession. Bodies falling to the ground on the far sideline. That's a foul, and so Stanford will get the ball. And it's interesting, you know, one of the things we love about postseason anything is what you just talked about there, Jenna, the fact that anything can happen, that you can get upsets, that you can get all kinds of chaos. It really is unfair to the team that was better in the regular season, but, you know, as a fan and as a player who might be on one of those teams that has been fighting all year and gets an opportunity in the tournament, it's just super exciting, and it presents, like you were talking about, a different type of challenge than a lot of these players see in a long regular season where they have the opportunity to kind of find themselves, have the opportunity to work on kinks. When you get into a one-game situation, there is no opportunity to find yourself. You're just thrown into the fire, and you got to try to make something happen. As this ball is going to go Pittsburgh's way. Don't know if that was a foul or maybe someone was offside. I think it was a foul. So we'll get a goal kick here from Pittsburgh.
And when it comes to sports in general, really, it's not always the best team that wins. It's who shows up that particular day at that particular time, who executes in the moment. And you do all the preparation you can possibly ever do to increase your chances of being able to execute. But when it comes down to it, that's why you talk to coaches and they often talk about staying in the moment, not getting caught up in the distractions, just staying present.
You know, all the good coach talk. We're not going to stay too high. We're not going to stay too low. Yeah. We're on to Cincinnati.
Some of the cliches, though, right? They're cliches for a reason, you know?
Wetzel in the backfield. Back to Moxham. Again, Pittsburgh. They just can't seem to get anything going on offense. This entire game being played over on their side of the field.
And that's the thing about the Stanford attack as well. It's very balanced. It doesn't, you know, lopside just to one or two different players. 11 different players have scored a goal this season. 14 have contributed and registered points. They have so many weapons in their arsenal. That's why they're so tough to beat.
And it is just relentless if you're an opponent. I mean, right now, if you're Pittsburgh, you don't even really have time to try to think of ways that you can create offense because every single moment you turn your head or you look down, Stanford is coming right down your throat like they are right now over on the Pittsburgh side. Palmer Bank. And he was looking for his twin brother there, but that gets a shoot away by Casper Svenby, the ace defender on the Pittsburgh side. 13 minutes gone here in the second half.
Number 7,
Lassadal comes into the game here for Pittsburgh. Dahl, the sophomore out of Denmark. So he'll come in.
Corner kick, number 10, Zach Bohane.
And we're going to get a corner kick here from Zach Bohane. Bohane over on the far side of the field. The northwest part of the field, if you will. Bohane. Ready to go. This is a high kick towards the bodies. Headed away there by Pittsburgh, but tracking it down is Islam. Islam on the left side, and he was looking for Bank, who was cutting towards the goal. Instead, it gets kicked away by Pittsburgh, so there'll be another corner kick here for Stanford.
Not a lot behind that kick in particular, so Wetzel had plenty of time to clear it out.
Stanford corner kick, number 16.
The amount of corners, again, already 6 in the bank for Stanford. No pun intended, I guess, with the Bank brothers, now that I think of it. But in this game, and they haven't conceded any to Pitt. That's, again, another way to create opportunities that they've dominated.
Hartel up in the air, and that'll go out of bounds. Well, Jenna, I missed my opportunity when we had the goal there from Palmer Bank, excuse me, to say that the bank is open on Saturday nights.
Still open. You never know.
Moxham kicks that one out of bounds. Bad mistake there from Pittsburgh as they give it right back to Stanford. Exactly what Pittsburgh didn't need. And so Palmer Bank is going to throw it in. Bank in front of the home fans. Passing the ball behind his back. He throws it up high in the air. And heads up, feet up, bodies up. And that ball is kicked away. Bank kicks it once again across the field. Bank is trying to get back to it. And Pittsburgh right now is just hanging on for dear life. They give it right back to Stanford. This is just an unending nightmare right now for the Pittsburgh defense. Him, behind him to Bohane. Bohane over to the far sideline. High arcing kick towards Islam. And they're going to say he was offside. So that'll snuff out that opportunity there for Stanford. And Pittsburgh can catch their breath a little bit. Over 15 minutes gone here in the second half. We are now more than 2/3 done with the game in total. Stanford up 1-0. Line drive kick down the field. And once again, Stanford takes it away. This has to be so infuriating for Pittsburgh. They just cannot get anything going. Bank gonna track it down. And once again, an offside call. So 2 straight whistles there on Stanford for 2 straight violations. And Pittsburgh will once again try what has seemed to be an impossible task, and that is trying to move the ball down towards the Stanford side. Pittsburgh in the backfield, now on the far sideline. Stanford has just looked faster and more athletic throughout this entire game. Pittsburgh finally over the midfield. That might have been the first time all half that they've done that. Pittsburgh on the far sideline, and that goes out of bounds. That was an exaggeration saying it was the first time, but it was definitely one of the 3 times they've been able to get it over the midfield.
Stanford incredibly dominant in terms of possession in the first half, even more so here in the second half so far, and we talked about that. Just building up that pressure. But the fact that they can just keep going, they don't look tired. You know, they're still moving just as quickly as they were in the first minutes of this game.
So Pittsburgh's going to throw it in. And Stanford tries to take it away there. Pittsburgh hangs on to it. And that was a wild adventure there for Sorensen. Stanford trying to kick it away here. Pittsburgh will track it down, and this goes back to Moxham. So once again, the ball over on the Pittsburgh side as they reset. Student section beginning to make themselves heard. This ball kicked far down the field, looking for a streaking Dahl. Dahl over on the left side of the box, looking for a teammate going towards the goal. Instead, he's going to kick it out of bounds as he kicks it across the field. And that'll roll over the end line, so that'll be a goal kick.
That's another fun part about this part of the season. Stanford on the quarter system out here on the West Coast. So really, students have only been in classes for a couple of weeks now. So it's nice to have that student section back for some of these fall sports. Out here, a lot of support between different athletic programs on campus here at Stanford too. Men's soccer showed up at field hockey last night, for example. The men's and women's programs show each other a lot of love. It's a fun community.
Bank gets that shot attempt blocked. Pittsburgh coming back the other way. And yeah, I went to a school that was on the quarter system as well. Not on the level of Stanford, although some call Seattle Pacific University the Stanford of the Pacific Northwest. And I can say that—
Are you that some?
Sure, why not? I can say that those early fall sports, as someone who was covering them, it can be kind of quiet, especially when the students haven't shown up yet. So I'm sure all these athletes are very excited to see that student section back to cheer them on, especially as we get to the most important part of the season.
At the same time, you get to compete in your sport without having classes. I mean, that's something that you'll take.
That's
you
true.
can focus on one thing at a time, right? But there's nothing quite like we talked about, just the advantage that there is here at Kagan to have that student section here and present and loud. It's worth it.
I will admit, as someone who ran cross country in college and would show up about 6 weeks before school and run for 6 weeks straight with nothing else to do or talk about, I kind of missed class at a certain point. And maybe that was why I wasn't so successful in college in cross country. I'm sure that these Division I athletes for Stanford are much more passionate and much more excited to get to focus on their sport for a long period of time without going to class.
It shifts in the spring too, right? I mean, for softball program, for example, the Women's College World Series, it's finals week at the
That's
same
true.
time, right? So, pros and cons like anything else.
Absolutely.
Would you rather play postseason without having classes? Probably, just like some of the semester schools, but.
And some pushing and shoving here as Grayson Carter is going to shove Palmer Bank. I'm sure Pittsburgh getting more and more frustrated as the reality of their situation right now continues to kick in. Again, for all of Stanford's dominance, Pittsburgh's only down 1-0, but that 1-0 advantage just seems so large because the Panthers have not been really able to create many offensive opportunities. They're still stuck on one shot for this entire game.
And that's the credit to the defense as well. Any time that there has been any kind of threat, it's been stifled pretty quickly.
That said, Pittsburgh has been better about getting the ball over to Stanford's side over the last 5 or 6 minutes or so. I'm sure Pittsburgh, they're going to get more and more desperate as this game goes on, not just because they want to win this game, but as we've set up throughout the broadcast, they need all the points they can get to try to make a case for themselves to get to the NCAA tournament for a 7th straight time. Betteray. Passing around here is Pittsburgh. Oliver over to Gilman. Gilman to Sorensen. Sorensen past the midline. And this ball's taken away by Stanford. Stanford comes past the midline. They're racing down the field, but that pass is a little too strong there from Will Cleary. So Pittsburgh will set things up. Looking at some other scores around the ACC. Wake Forest defeated Cal down at Edwards Stadium 2-1 today. Virginia Tech defeated Louisville 2-0. North Carolina with a very, very tough opponent, St. Thomas, defeated them 4-0. SMU and Syracuse is underway. They're playing right now. Then Boston College and American International also. Well, they'll be in action on Tuesday. So all those games that I just mentioned happen today or are happening right now. Just a look at around what is happening around the ACC today. Right now, Stanford, the leaders of the ACC, up 1-0 on Pittsburgh, who currently sit at the bottom of the ACC. And right now, Trevor Islam is down on the field. That's going to get a timeout. It looks like he might be cramping in his right leg. So coming over to stretch him out is Tinconi Gradius. And it looks like Islam's okay.
True teammate right there. Tinconi Gradius didn't even hesitate to help him out.
Absolutely.
And that's what we used to say in college is no me mates allowed, only teammates.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So I'm assuming you were never a believer in the there's no I in team, but there is a me.
Correct. It was not my mantra. That's some Kobe Bryant stuff right there.
This ball down the field to Flores over on the left side, and a whistle. So Stanford's gotten a little choppy here on offense as of late. A few violations. They were playing so well, applying so much pressure, but Pittsburgh has had a little bit of a chance to grab a breath over the last 8 or so minutes. Although, as I say that, Stanford takes the ball away. Pim. Back to Groneveld. Stanford will reset. Obviously, Stanford not in any rush right now. They have the lead. Pittsburgh takes it away. Long kick down the far sideline. Pitt fighting desperately trying to get this ball. This is kicked back across midfield. So both sides kind of exchanging possession right now. Very disjointed. This is kicked down the far sideline. And it's a foot race. But Pittsburgh will track it down. They'll give it back to Stanford. Goes back to the same spot it was. And Pittsburgh will get it back. So right now is just hot potato between these two teams as they go back and forth, back and forth. This will go out of bounds. Pittsburgh will throw it in.
You can see the credentials, if you will, for both the men's and women's side here at Stanford on the wall here at Kagan Stadium. And I know we've talked about the ACC and the strength of the conference overall, but just digging into that a little bit more too, for context, 20 national championships in college men's soccer, 8 different programs. Virginia has the most with 7. Stanford has 3 from the three-peat between 2015 and 2017. And then, of course, one of those national championship coaches, also Jay Vidovich at Wake Forest previously. 7 of the last 11 national champions have been from the ACC.
Wow. Well, super conferences exist in men's soccer and women's soccer as well. And the ACC is definitely a super conference. Right now, they're tending to a player over on the far side of the field. Looks like we have some more cramping issues. I think that's Palmer Bank. No, it's not. It's Zach Bohane, who is on the ground getting stretched out. So Bohane looks better. So the Stanford team is suffering with some cramps right now, which is something that I'm sure will be addressed by Jeremy Gunn. Why are we cramping late in the game? Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you can't. So Moxham's going back to the goal, but Pittsburgh's going to throw it in here.
I'm sure a focus for the rest of this one will be hydration as well, coming down the stretch.
Absolutely. Here comes the throw in from Pitt. And that ball will go out of bounds. Thrown off of Lasse Dahl. So Stanford gets an opportunity to throw it in here. Coming up on 20 minutes to go here in the game. Throw down the near sideline. Headed away. Stanford gets it back. This is Bohane. Bohane across the field. And another opportunity there for Stanford. That was off the foot of DeFlores. Bank gets it. Gives it to DeFlores. DeFlores into Bank. Bank. Back to Bank. And Bank will back it out. He gives it to Groneveld. Again, Stanford, they don't have to be in any rush. They can take their time. At this point, clock coming off the board is a win. Pop-up kick. Pittsburgh retrieves it. They're heading it around. This one is popped up towards the other side of the field. Vilajama trying to race it down. Villamajana, excuse me. Stanford. And this will go down towards the goalkeeper, Moxham, and Moxham will pick it up.
One of the impressive things that Stanford has done this season as well is not only reaching that #1 ranking. This is the second week that they've reached that in the Top Drawer Soccer poll, or excuse me, United Soccer Coaches poll. They're actually #2 in the TDS poll, but they were preseason ranked number 13, and they have been in the top 10 ever since the season actually started. It's the 3rd straight year that they've reached that #1 spot in the national poll as well. So it's one thing to pursue excellence. It's another thing to have sustained excellence like that, and that's just one snapshot into this long history of Stanford men's soccer that's over 100 years old.
Bank over on the left side of the goal towards the middle of the box, and that'll be a shoot away by the Pittsburgh defense. And I agree with you, Jen. I mean, obviously, the goal is to win a championship, right? That's the goal every single year. But only one team can win a championship, right? It is very impressive, almost more impressive to me, when you have a team that they may not win the championship every year, but they are sustainably great every single year. That says a lot about a program. That says a lot about a culture. That says a lot about the word I just used, sustainability, the fact that you can continue to repeat greatness over and over and over again. And so, yeah, I mean, is it cool to have a flash in the pan and to win a championship? Yes, but I think it's even more impressive what Stanford has done, which is just to be continuously one of the best teams in the nation.
That's what makes that three-peat even more impressive, right? To be one of only 2 programs to ever be able to do that. But 2015, 16, 17, just back to back to back. I mean, that is, winning one is hard enough. To be able to do it like that consistently, consecutively, is just next level. And in addition to that, you know, having 7 College Cup appearances, the last one was 2019. So this is a program that really wants to get back there. They've been in 5 College Cup finals. So runners up twice on the national stage. That's always the goal at the end of the day.
And you brought up the polls, the United Soccer Coaches and the Top Drawer Soccer polls. So Stanford, as you mentioned, number 1 in the United Soccer Coaches poll. Vermont's number 2 in that poll. Vermont is number 1 in the Top Drawer Soccer poll, with Stanford being number 2. Bank kicks it across the field, and that'll go out of bounds. It is off of Pittsburgh, though, so that'll be a corner kick for Stanford. And now we have a Pittsburgh player who's cramping down on the field, as Logan Oliver is going to get stretched out by his teammates. So, although it's a chilly night, we're seeing some cramps here from either side.
A lot of pressure, right, on both sides really, I think, feeling that. And the tempo of play has just increased a little bit on both sides, I think. So it's not a bad thing sometimes when you're forced to, okay, let's take a breath, let's slow things down, get a little bit more methodical.
So 17 minutes on the clock. Stanford's going to go back to the bench here. We have a timeout. And as we were talking about the polls there, so Vermont, they're the reigning national champions. They're still ranked number 1 in the Top Drawer Soccer poll. They're ranked number 2 in the United Soccer Coaches poll. And so the question is, you know, you talked about how Stanford has not made it to the College Cup since 2019. How does Stanford take this regular season success and translate it to making a run at the national championship as we get deeper and deeper into the winter?
Well, nothing's going to prepare you better than this ACC conference slate. This is one of the best battle-tested portions of the season that you could possibly ask for, is being able to be a part of this conference. So it's taking that momentum with you. You know, right now in this stretch, they're hosting Pitt, they'll host SMU, and then they'll go across the bay over to Cal. So getting to be here in the Bay Area for the last few regular season matches before traveling for that ACC tournament, they can get some rest, they can sleep in their own beds before getting ready to travel and go for another natty.
Well, Stanford is just continuing to apply pressure on the offensive side. Whistle there goes against Sinconi Gradius, and Gradius was not pleased with that whistle as he immediately put his arms out and shouted in confusion. So he'll run back, and Pittsburgh will get possession here on a free kick.
And you mentioned Vermont, so too, just really quickly, they're the ones who actually knocked Pitt out last year in the quarterfinals for the NCAA on that championship run. So, you know, there's a little chip on your shoulder there, too, if you're Pitt. But, I mean, they have plenty to focus on here in the ACC before that.
It was a very unlikely championship run for Vermont as well. No one was expecting them to win the Natty last year. And it was their first national championship in the history of Vermont athletics. So Vermont right in the high of that one. Bank with it. Bank over to Islam, and Islam with the goal! Well, it was Islam to a Bank for the first goal, and now the other Bank sets up Islam for his 6th goal of the season. Stanford is up 2-0, and Trevor Islam, you said it, we haven't said his name enough, one of the best players on this Stanford team. He now has a goal and an assist, 3 points in total here in this game, and Stanford now in full command of this contest with Pittsburgh.
He was tied for the team high in goals coming into this one with 5. Now he sits atop all by himself, his 6th goal of the season. What a story to see him go from being a walk-on in the spring of 2024, get a tiny bit of playing time last year, and then this year be the leading scorer on the #1 men's soccer team in the country.
That is just, I don't think that we're really doing it justice. That is an incredible story. The idea of even being able to walk on to a program like Stanford, let alone become possibly their best player so far in the 2025 season, that is just utterly incredible. Also incredible was the pass that he received from Fletcher Bank. Bank now with 3 assists on the season, and this is a guy who has always been a very, very good passer. Now he has 4 goals to go along with his 3 assists. He has 11 points in the season, so a great year for Fletcher Bank as well. We are at about 15:30 left on the clock, and if you're Pittsburgh now, you need a miracle of your own if you're going to try to get back into this game. As that was almost the first part of that miracle, as that ball rolls harmlessly in front of the net. It didn't look harmless at first. It'll go out of bounds, and this will be a goal kick for Stanford.
And you mentioned Fletcher Bank, of course, his impact that he's had throughout his entire career, but 3rd consecutive game with an assist. And then, of course, you know, he scored as well, but also he had a team-high 6 shots, and 4 of them being on goal against Wake Forest. So he's been heating up as well.
And he's always been a great passer. He was top 10 in the nation in assists in high school. He had 27 assists his senior year of high school, which is utterly absurd. As this is brought in by Moxham. Bank, just like his twin brother from Bakersfield, California. They went to Garces Memorial High School. As Schneebly is just going to hit this one out. He knew he was about to come out of the box, so heads up play there from Schneebly. Haven't had to talk about the goalkeeper a lot today because Stanford's defense has been so good. As this ball goes back to Pittsburgh. And you can see some of this frustration starting to sink in. You saw Villamajana kind of put his head down. You can see he was frustrated there on that last play. And if you're Pittsburgh, I mean, obviously, you would be frustrated considering the fact that you kept this game scoreless for the first half, and now Stanford has kind of made the inevitable happen, and they have gone up 2-0. Wetzel down the field. Well, Pittsburgh, again, they're fighting for their lives right now, and their next game is going to be on October 24th. So they have a while. They have quite the layoff before they take on Denver. So Denver will be their next matchup. So they're going to be able to sit on this for quite a bit of time before taking on Denver back home in Pennsylvania.
And they'll at least get to host towards the end there for the ACC slate. They'll host Syracuse and Wake Forest. They will go to Louisville to wrap things up for that regular season. But it just doesn't end in the ACC. It really doesn't. You don't get a break.
You just have to keep on banging your head against the wall. As Bank kicks this one down the near sideline to his twin brother. Bank trying to make a man miss, and that's kicked out of bounds. A whistle, and Stanford's very upset at this whistle. You see Fletcher Bank putting his hands out, and the referees are drawing boos here from Kagan Stadium, just showing you that even when their team is in firm command of the game, these Stanford fans do not forgive bad calls. Not that that was a bad call. The Stanford fans think it was, though.
They're just the most biased fans that are going to be here, right? But, you know, again, we talk about the environment. That's the home field advantage, right? Every program wants that at the end of the day, to have that environment to lean on when you play these home matches.
Stanford's next opponent will be San Francisco. They also get quite a layoff before they play the Dons. 11-day layoff. That game will be on October 22nd. And so only 2 games for Stanford in, if I'm counting correctly, 17 days. So Stanford has been very well rested. Islam with another opportunity here. Islam has that one kicked away. He gets back to it, gives it back to his teammates. Stanford threatening here for a 3rd goal. As a push by Pittsburgh, and they'll get called for a foul.
You know, this season he's had a couple of game winners, Islam has. He had his first multi-goal game and his first game with both a goal and an assist. He has just really been heating up this season, and really throughout this game he's been trending in the right direction, up and to the right.
So here comes a corner kick in a very dangerous situation for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's going to have to create a defensive wall here. Stanford with 2 guys out who could possibly take the corner kick. It looks like DeFlores, and I think that's Bohane on the other side of DeFlores. The clock ticking down. Obviously, Stanford not in any hurry to make something happen here. So will it be Bohane or DeFlores? It'll be DeFlores. And no, it'll be Bohane. They tricked me out. High arcing kick, and an opportunity there, a golden one for Islam to pick up his 2nd goal off the deflection from the goalkeeper. Islam frustrated there that he wasn't able to execute. But Stanford with another shot. They now have 12 shots in the game to 1 for Pittsburgh. And this clock ticks down towards the 10-minute mark.
Bit of a gift for Pitt in that moment. Stanford nearly had the opportunity to really put this game away.
Stanford gets it once again. Bank gonna track this one down on the left side. Bank towards the goal, and a header, another opportunity for Stanford. That'll go out of bounds. Bohane had the opportunity for the header there. And that's out of bounds off of Bohane, so it'll be a goal kick for Pitt.
The previous play is under
But now the previous play is under review, so I think they're going to see who that was off of there.
From my vantage point, seeing it live, it looked like Moxham just punched it over the net as well. He may have had the last touch on that, but we'll see after this video review.
All right, so Pittsburgh and Stanford running to their respective benches. We got 10:19 left in this game. Once again, Kyle Morrison here with Jenna Becerra, and this has just been all-around domination for Stanford. Let's call it what it is. 13 shots to 1 for Stanford versus Pitt. You look at the shots on goal. Stanford's got 7. Pitt only has 1 shot on goal. Stanford's got 7 corner kicks. Pitt has 0. So Stanford has come into their home stadium here today. They've taken on a Pittsburgh team that has struggled a little bit this season, and they have done exactly what you would expect the #1 team in the nation to do.
They have, and like you said, not the first time, the second time actually in the last 3 games that Pitt has faced the #1 team in the country. You know, on September 26th, it was #1 NC State at the time, and now here they are facing Stanford, back-to-back ranked teams with #9 Duke in the middle there. And they did, that draw was so huge for them with NC State. It boosted the confidence a little bit, but then a rough one, losing 4-0 to Duke on the road last time out on October 3rd. And then you come into Stanford on the road as well, and it's been a rough one. You know, Kagan Stadium is not an easy place to play.
Absolutely, as if you couldn't tell based on the applause here at Kagan Stadium, that play was overturned. So we're going to get a corner kick here for Stanford. You talked about NC State. I mean, NC State, they were the #1 team in the nation. They are now down to number 10 in the United Soccer Coaches poll and number 5 in Top Drawer Soccer. So they're actually calling a red card.
Yep. Baderay.
So Baderay gets called for a red card, which means now Stanford has the advantage the rest of the way, and Baderay has to come off the field.
Corner kick, Stanford, number 10.
That's tough. I mean, shooting yourself in the foot a little bit, right? You're already trailing. Trying to hang in there. Really the last thing that Pitt needed right now.
So here comes the corner kick. I didn't see what Baderay did, but obviously it was very bad if it drew a red card. Must have been quite substantial, a quite substantial violation. And we've seen physical play from both teams throughout the game, so he must have just stepped it up a notch too far. Here comes the corner kick towards the bodies in front of the goal, and Pittsburgh is going to try to get rid of this one. Grabbing of jerseys once again, and there's a whistle. So only 10 men on the field right now for Pittsburgh. They're playing a man down, which happens when you have a red card. And if I'm not mistaken, Baderay, he has to miss, is it the first half or all of their next game?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, got to double check.
I'm pretty sure he also gets penalized for the next game. We'll make sure to look that up for you guys. As this ball comes down the field, and Pittsburgh, well, only 10 players now trying to make something happen. There's less than 10 minutes left in this game. Wetzel across the field to Sorensen. This ball over on the left side of the box. Stanford trying to clear it out, and they will. So a red card, you don't see that all the time. So yes, a red card in the NCAA results in an immediate ejection from the game and serves as a 1-game suspension. So Baderay will not only miss the rest of this game, but he will miss the game against Denver, which even compounds the mistake considering how late we are into this game and the fact that Pittsburgh is probably not going to win here. You want your best players when you have to go to battle next, which will be against Denver, and Pittsburgh needs all the chances they can get. They need all the effort they can get from all their guys because, like we've talked about many times on this telecast, they're fighting for their postseason lives right now. So a bad mistake there from Baderay. I'm sure that the Pittsburgh coaching staff will not be happy. I'm sure that Jay Vidovich is not going to be happy. And we'll just see if how Pittsburgh will respond without Baderay against Denver in a couple weeks.
Denver's a solid team, too. I believe they were ranked in the preseason national poll coming into this year. Not an easy opponent by any stretch.
So Stanford passing the ball around here. We're under 8 minutes to go. Bank across the midline. Down the field to DeFlores. DeFlores back to Bank. Bank out to Grunewald. Grunewald across to Sinconi Gradius. Again, Stanford content to pass the ball around now. Pittsburgh gets it back. They'll kick it down the field. Stanford on the far sideline. 2-0. Coming up on 7 minutes to go. As here's a whistle. Stanford player is down. Clock will stop. Looks like we don't know. We're going to get some substitutions. Yes, we are going to get some substitutions. So Joshua Vicek comes into the game. The hometown kid from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He comes in. Previously, he went to school in Berlin. Went to Olentangy, Berlin. And, you know, we were talking a little bit. Actually, the way this came up, Jenna, is the fact that I noticed that with all the soccer games I do, and I do a lot of sports, with all the soccer games I do, they always play house music before every single game. And we were talking about, why is that the case? And as Stanford is going to bring in some substitutions here, as Stone will come into the game, and Chow as well. But one of the things that we were talking about is that soccer, I mean, just based on the sport, but also based on the players that play here in the United States, has more of an international feel. A lot of these players, I mean, you look at Pittsburgh's side, around, I would say, a third of their players are international. They come from they come from European countries, so more of that international flair. And jokingly, you know, the stereotype is that Europeans listen to more house music, but in reality, I mean, this is a sport, even in the United States, that has a lot of international talent that comes over here to play in the NCAA.
Yeah, nearly half of this roster for Pitt is international. 12 out of the 26 players listed. 3 are from Spain. There's a pair from Norway, Switzerland, and Sweden, and then 1 from Colombia, Argentina, and Denmark as well. So, again, nearly half of the roster being international. Just 2 on the Stanford side for comparison of their 27 players.
So, again, Pittsburgh, one of many teams in the NCAA that features a lot of international talent. And it's a great opportunity for a lot of these guys coming from overseas to get a good education at some of the best schools in the United States, get to play soccer, which they obviously have an inherent advantage in, just based off of the overall level of play that happens in Europe at the youth level compared to here in the United States. I mean, obviously soccer, the most popular sport in the world, especially in Europe. And so a lot of these guys get to come over to the U.S., get a good education, play the sport that they love, and also enhance the level of play here in the NCAA.
And that's the thing, too, about prolific and storied programs like these two that we're watching today. It's about the next level as well. You know, Jeremy Gunn, for example, has had 12 MLS Super Draft players selected. On the flip side, if you look at Jay Vidovich, he's had 10 since just being at Pitt. This is his 10th season there. Michael Sullivan went in the 39th pick overall last year in the MLS Super Draft to Toronto. It's something where you're also preparing potentially for that next level. There's the international experience as well as those professional dreams.
Absolutely. And any good college coach, you know, one of the things that any great coach takes pride in is preparing his players or her players to succeed at the next level. Whether that's in sports or whether that's in business or whether that's in whatever else they decide to do in life. As Islam is going to track this one down. Stanford once again with another opportunity. Excuse me, that's not Islam. That is Chow. And Chow trying to find Bohane, and that'll go out of bounds. So it doesn't surprise me that you have 2 head coaches here on either side who are both very successful, who, I mean, look, they're preparing their players for life, and for some of these players, preparing for life is making sure that they are in a good position to play professional soccer and make some money doing the thing that they love.
Quarter kid, number 16, Joshua Partal.
And that is not to be underrated either. They, you know, the NCAA comes out with commercials all the time saying that 99% of student athletes at college will go pro in something other than sports, but that 1% Still huge. and we're looking at a couple of programs where, hey, there have been some folks that contribute to that 1% on the soccer side.
Ball headed up in the air. Pittsburgh trying to clear it. Stone gets that one blocked. And Pittsburgh's coming back the other way. I like to know what that percentage would be with Division I sports. I have a feeling when they come up with that 99 percentile, that I think it also takes into account the Division II and Division III players. Not to shade Division II and Division III. Look, I was a Division II athlete. Like, there's some great athletes in Division II and Division III. But you look at Stanford and Pitt. I mean, you just talked about all the players that are getting drafted off these programs. I mean, when we're watching these Division I games, these are really some of the best athletes in the world that we're getting a chance to watch. So Pittsburgh's going to bring in some substitutions. As Fletcher Bank is going to come off the field here. Looks like he's taking inventory a little bit. Hopefully that he's okay. Actually, looks like he was walking towards the sideline. I'm not sure if he's coming off or not. And he is, so he'll come off for a sub.
For Stanford.
Clock still stopped at 5:03.
William Doyle.
Again, it's a rule in the NCAA. If the team ahead makes a substitution in the last 15 minutes, the clock has to stop. This is to stop teams from needlessly wasting time bringing in sub after sub after sub, which I'm sure would be a much used strategy if there wasn't the 15-minute rule. This ball goes out of bounds. Cleary's going to throw it in. We're under 5 minutes to go. Cleary directing traffic. And this ball will go out of bounds. So Pitt now is going to throw it in. Pitt over on the Stanford side. We haven't seen that a lot today. Again, they only have 10 players on the field right now because of the red card that went on Betteray. Ticking down towards 4 minutes to go.
And I think both teams, obviously, you want to end strong regardless of the end result. For Stanford, you don't want to let up. You want to start strong and finish strong and maintain that level and that standard throughout the entire match. But if you're Pitt too, I mean, just being able to bring some things together here at the end, to have some sort of momentum to take with you moving forward is huge. You know, even if you take that loss at the end of the day, in this against the #1 team in the country in this formidable ACC conference, like being able to have things that you can build on is what you need from game to game.
Absolutely. You always are trying to find positives. And you know, coaches always say there are no moral victories, but even though they may not advertise moral victories, you do want to feel good about yourself coming out of a game, even if you lose. So if you're Pittsburgh, you're just trying to move the ball a little bit here, see if you can get some scoring opportunities. Just feel good about yourself as you leave California. Do want to take a chance here as the clock is ticking down to thank everyone at Stanford, thank everyone on the production side, thank Doug, our great producer, who's making sure that we sound and look fairly good. And also, we're going to take an opportunity to talk about the big game that's going on tomorrow that my partner Jenna will get the opportunity to be a part of, and I'm sure you're very excited about this. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. here at Kagan Stadium, #1 Virginia versus #3 Stanford, and that is going to be one heck of a game.
Women's college soccer fans are in for an absolute treat. A top 3 matchup in the nation is nothing to snooze at all, but in addition to that, just the ability to watch some of the best players, it makes me excited for the young ones that'll come out, right? We see kids who come out to all of these games, especially on the weekends when they're able to step away from school, and to see the young girls who will be excited to see the players that they might want to be like later on in their lives is one of the best parts of it.
You know, all of us who love sports, we all had a hero when we were growing up, right? I mean, for me, it was those Giants teams that won the World Series from 2010 to 2014. I don't know who your heroes were, but for a lot of young girls here in the Bay Area, this Stanford women's soccer team, these are the heroes they look up to. These are the women who are going to get them excited, not just about soccer, but just about a life in sports in general. As this ball is popped up in the air, Stanford trying to get their 3rd goal of the game, Pittsburgh trying to get rid of it.
And we talked about with these programs on the men's side, preparing for that next level. Well, the only 2 women's soccer programs in the country that had a draftee every single year the NWSL draft was in place, Stanford and Virginia. We'll see them both tomorrow.
And 2 great academic schools as well. So some of the smartest athletes that you'll see on a field will be on the field tomorrow. We're under 2 minutes left here in this game. And shameless plug, but if you, whenever you get a chance, if you have a break, maybe at halftime during that great soccer matchup, I will be broadcasting the field hockey game tomorrow.
Yes.
So make sure you tune in to some Stanford field hockey tomorrow as Stanford takes on Boston College. Great day of sports tomorrow here on the Stanford campus. And I'm excited to see how that Stanford and Virginia game goes. Our game on the field hockey side starts at noon, so I might have a chance to walk on over here and check out the second half.
Yeah.
And I'll be very excited to do that.
Absolutely. And, you know, field hockey, another collegiate sport where the ACC absolutely dominates as well. Just an elite level conference.
We have less than a minute to go here as we continue to tick down towards the end of this 2-0 win. Coming down to 37 seconds. So the Stanford men's soccer team going to get this weekend of soccer here on the Stanford campus started off very well as they win this 2-0 as Schneebly brings that one in. I almost had pie on my face there because if that ball would have gone in, I would have had to go. And they win 2-1. Not 2-0, but no, they're going to win 2-0 as it comes down towards 10 seconds. Schneebly not in any rush. He kicks this high in the air. The fans are starting to applaud. The energy is palpable. Everyone's counting down. And that's the end of this dominant win here for the Stanford Cardinal. The #1 team in the nation, showing why they have that #1 ranking. They defeat the Pittsburgh Panthers by a score of